we believe, stem from economic. The deeper malaise is poverty.
Mainly, the cause and the practice of this trafficking is due to the imposition of especially outside and armed conflicts, and then lack of political will, and that kind of migration, displacement, as well as the poverty.
The challenges is that we have many borders, whether it's Indo-Myanmar, Indo-Nepal, Indo-Bangladesh, Indo-China, and these are large end borders.
Challenges which is faced by activists who try to stop the victims of trafficking or survivors of trafficking.
When we are establishing border hearts, etc., we develop a stake within those countries, within those areas, within their local areas, so that people can stay there, they can have sustained livelihood in those areas.
One of the challenges that law enforcement agencies are facing is that sometimes there is a very thin line between consensual agreement between the parents of the children and also employee. Because a lot of, again, when we talk about trafficking, it's not only the women or the girl child trafficking to prostitution, but again, it also associated with domestic help.
I think the biggest gap is understanding, awareness. People really do not understand the concept of trafficking in persons as it is required.
Training of the law enforcement officials on human trafficking is very, very critical, because very often, even though this phenomena exists, most of the police forces are not sensitized or understand the nuances of this issue. And very often, I mean, there is already a lot of training that is happening, but again, we need to be more targeted.
The most effective tool, as nowadays is in terms of combating human trafficking, would be awareness and strong collaboration between different stakeholders in the society.
Government like this really help us, because you have the experience in finding solutions and reducing the traffic victims and protecting, so that we can learn from.
This program has been very fruitful to understand the different approach and experiences from different organizations working on the issue.
This particular conclave, which is going on in Guwahati, has brought together all stakeholders from different walks of life, like the NGOs, civil society partners, the media, police officers, government officials, political leaders, and academics, and so on, students, and so on. You know, all of them have a role to play in addressing the issue of human trafficking, whether it is prevention or it is combating. Such initiatives are happening across the country, but here is an initiative where they brought stakeholders from not only all states in the northeast, but also from adjoining countries. So the human trafficking knows no boundaries. It's a borderless crime. It's a timeless crime. It's a crime of crimes. It's a basket of crime. So one crime after another, crime after another, crime after, and human rights violations.
Our work together on trafficking in persons continuing to be a collaboration and a more integrated web of collaboration. I think it's very important that we bring the people together who are working on this and recognize that it is long-term. We're not going to solve trafficking tomorrow. We're going to have to, we need to continually build the networks to address trafficking issues from the ground level to the highest policy level, so that everybody's working forward and having the collaboration together on this. And this is what a conclave can do.
Without wasting any more time, because we are already delayed by about 15 minutes, we'll straight away start off with the first session, that is human trafficking dimensions. We have got 4 very illustrious speakers, and myself fifth one on the dais. We have got Dr. Nair, we have got Ms. Tiffany Williams, we have got Mr. Halder, and we have got Mr. Biju Matthew. So 4 people from 4 different walks of life, people working in police enforcement, people working in safe migration, and all these. So what I'm going to do is I will ask each one of you to confine yourselves between 5 to 10 minutes. And once when Alex Haley won the prize for writing the book Roots, and it took 10 years, then somebody asked him, if you had known that you're going to win the prize, what would you have done? He said, I would have written my book faster. So I think that's what you need to do. You need to write your book very fast, and you need to finish it in 7 to 8 minutes. So straight away I come to Ms. Tiffany Williams. Please start with her.
Thank you. I will follow these instructions very carefully. So thank you very much for welcoming me here. It's an honor to be here. I'm a social worker and an organizer in the U.S. I work for an organization called the National Domestic Workers Alliance. I was the child of a single mother who worked 2 jobs in order to take care of me and my brother. And I've always cared about the rights of women workers, so it was a natural pathway for me to start this work. My project in DC, Washington, DC, was started in 1997. We started meeting with domestic workers, many of whom were trafficked by diplomats and international officials, wealthy families, and brought to the U.S. to work. What we were seeing was case after case of abuse. Their passports were taken. They weren't allowed to leave. They were working long hours. Their movements were being monitored. They were getting threats to their family members at home. And they were facing physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. In 2010, we had a chance to look back at all of our cases and realize that if you took the date 1998 and replaced it with 2008, you would see the same patterns of abuse. So the abuse wasn't changing, we had to change. So we joined the National Domestic Workers Alliance and realized that there were other groups who were facing the same issues. Their workers were coming in with these same complaints. So we launched the Beyond Survival campaign, and our role is to lift up the voices of domestic workers, survivors, and have them become the advocates themselves. So hopefully next time someone from my organization is here, it'll be a survivor who is speaking for us. Human rights belong to all of us. This is the model that we take for our work. Most of us know what human rights are, even if we can't list all 30 articles of the Declaration of Human Rights. We know that we have these rights just by being alive. Whether we are of any age, gender, sexual orientation, race, migrant status, caste, religion, or type of work that we do. These rights include more than the right to be free from slavery. They include the right to education, food, safe and decent work, and equal protection under the laws of our countries. Trafficking and forced labor are a violation of human rights, as you have heard many times already this morning. But we challenge ourselves to think beyond just the trafficking, the act of trafficking and the duration of trafficking as being the violation. We look at what are the violations that happen before that. The lack of education, food, and all of the things that we all deserve that dig the trench that trafficking follows. And what about the human rights violations that happen after rescue, even from some of the NGOs in the US? Thinking about inhumane conditions that people are put into after trafficking, even by those who claim to rescue them. So what can we really do? Well, we each have our own path to take. NDWA, my organization, is working to build this survivor-led movement. And I think what we're trying to do is look beyond just a criminalization approach, or a morality-driven approach, or even a rescue-driven approach, and try to just take a rights-based approach. But we need collaboration to do our work in civil society. because there's a need for us, but there's also the need for lawyers, judges, social workers, teachers, doctors, police, government, NGOs. And none of our individual points of reference or frames would be enough to dismantle human trafficking on its own. So our group developed a set of core values that we use to guide our work in the US, and I will very briefly share some of them with you. So for us, what rights-based policy looks like is that it covers the full range of survivor needs, including access to justice, identity, and access to services. It involves survivors as experts and consultants on policy because they know best. It meets the real needs on the ground that are identified by police officers and NGOs and civil society. And it ensures that enforcement efforts are done in collaboration with community groups rather than against them. This picture is two of our workers at the ILO Convention 189 discussion, where they were involved in helping shape this historic convention. We envision rights-based services to include staff training and operating procedures that prioritize safety, health, consent, and respect. We're non-judgmental about life choices, and we put the survivor in the lead for goal planning process. We don't re-traumatize the survivor, and we try to meet all of the needs that he or she identifies, including economic needs. But good services have to be adequately funded and supported. So the role of the government and civil society in making sure these needs are met is really crucial. Finally, we connect survivors to opportunities to develop leadership, to learn about systems and ideas bigger than their own situations that they can feel connected. We do rights-based organizing and leadership. We ensure that basic needs are met first, but we try to go beyond the trauma narrative and help survivors share experiences in a non-exploitative way. We teach them to weave their stories throughout policy demands when it comes to testimony. We also do really good political education. It's really important that the survivors know about the policies and how they work and how law enforcement works. And I don't think it's fair to say that if someone is uneducated or illiterate that they can't learn to be a policy advocate, because there are models out there that can help us as advocates teach people in whatever way works for them. We do a lot of exercises and visuals and art therapy and others. Finally, rights-based social dialogue. This is a crucial part of our work. In rights-based social dialogue sparks public discourse about race, gender, class, and other social factors as root causes and context. It helps uncover and analyze the outcomes of different tracking and experiments. Some things we've tried haven't worked, but we need to know what works and what doesn't work, and we need to share it with each other. We also need to explore research into connections to the roles of trade policy and climate change, development and debt, foreign policy, migration policy, labor policy, and international agreements and protocols. Because these things are not just isolated ideas that countries struggle with, they're connected to the struggle for human rights and the struggle against human trafficking. I'll close by saying this is not a mandate for India or a mandate for the US alone. Trafficking is a global issue. I personally witnessed the testimony of domestic workers from 5 different continents, and their stories are the same. The patterns of abuse that a domestic worker from India or Bangladesh faces in Qatar or Saudi Arabia are the same patterns of abuse I see of Colombian domestic workers in Maryland or Filipino domestic workers in London. And while we each have cultural practices and legal contexts to contend with, and to be sure, the world is not equal when it comes to climate change, trade, and development. But nevertheless, we believe the problem must be addressed globally with a shared sense of responsibility and action to correct these inequalities. My short time here has shown that I'm not alone in this thinking, and I'm very honored to be here to kick off this particular session because I think that what's going to come out of these 2 days is going to be really powerful, and I hope that it leads to this rights-based discussion. So thank you for having me.
much. It was very enlightening and a very different perspective altogether. We'll do a review of all the speakers after the session. So I will request Mr. Biju to now start this session.
I'm told I have 8 minutes, so let's see if I can beat that time. My name is Biju Matthew. I'm the Director for International Justice Mission. And there's a PowerPoint that needs to come up. It says TIP PPT, if you can put it up. Wonderful. We are an organization that's been working in India for over a decade. Before I even begin, I want to thank the organizers and for the honor and privilege to be sitting on this panel with a number of prominent voices in this field, as well as thank those who, from the State Department and Shakti Vakini, who asked allowed me to come and share. So, International Justice Mission, in a snapshot, over the last decade, has been working to bring restoration to victims and hold criminals accountable to their crimes. Over all our work, over all the time, putting the numbers together, we have brought rescue to over 10,000 women and men in bonded labor and in commercial sexual exploitation. Currently in our restorative aftercare programs are over 2,000 individuals. We've seen over 134 convictions, and public officials trained has been over 28,000. What I'd like to talk about today is not about IJM, but about the actual model of the crime, the business model that we're looking at, because it is a business and it's a brutal, violent crime. I know this and my team knows this because we've walked with the victims, as have many of you. And if you look from this slide, you see that it's as Dr. Nair shared in the video, it's a basket of crimes. There's recruitment, there's transportation, there's buying and selling, and there's also violent abuse and exploitation. And as you well know from the different articles that have come out in Jharkhand, is that placement agencies in Delhi are regularly recruiting, buying, selling, and violently abusing people in order to get them to do things unimaginable. What I find that this crime to be is an absolute social terror on our cities, on our villages, and our country. And as Dr. Nair said this morning, we need to all stand up and have it stop. I want to show you just the business model of the crime. And if you look at the profitability of the crime, this is average profitability per victim of sexual exploitation, and this is in Indian rupees. The average purchase price for a victim is about 39,000 rupees. The average price per sex act that we've just, and this is coming from Siddhartha Kada's work as referenced below. And the average number of time is 250 rupees per sex act. The average number of acts per day, 11. And if you look at the actual cost of maintaining, and I use these words subjectively because I would never say this, but maintaining a victim is about 2.8 lakh. And the average annual revenue per victim is about 10 lakh. So the average annual profit is 7 lakh per individual. So you're looking at a profit margin of 71%. This is a brutal crime. This is not just a crime of social implications, it's an economic crime. And we must wake up the government and other people to see that there is economic forces at work. That is why there is a supply and demand happening. Otherwise, if there was no money being made in this crime, there would be no demand. There would be no supply. And so that's where we need civil society to step up. And what do I mean by civil society in the justice system? At IJM, we talk ad nauseum about a pipeline. And we imagine it to be a pipeline of police, prosecutors, judges, and social workers. And imagine if you put in water into a pipeline and you get an aquaguard and it filters out the impurities. This same pipeline of the justice system, if you put in injustice, it should filter all the injustice out. And the output would be justice. That's what a fixed working system should should look like. But that's not the case in India or around the world from our studies. What we see is that the pipeline is broken. The pipeline, there's problems because there's lack of resources, there's not training, people are overworked. And for example, let me give you examples of this in India. Per 1 million people or 10 lakh people, there are 11 judges. Per prosecutor fighting for cases in the court system, each prosecutor handles on average 300 cases. Per an average case, as you well know, takes 10 to 15 years to complete in the system. So let me ask you, sometimes people will talk to me and say, the police they're not doing good work. I don't see what the incentive is for the police officer. If the case doesn't finish in 10, 15 years, they've been transferred 3 to 4 times. They're not seeing any fruits of their labor because the system is broken. We need to be people to try to fix the system, to try to say adjournments should not happen. Unnecessary delays should not happen. Why? Because the rights of the victim are not being protected and she is languishing. Imagine a 15-year-old child who's raped, sold, tricked, trafficked, and she has to wait till she's 30 years old for a conviction to see accountability for the criminals. That should not happen in our justice system. And let me give you one more stat. The police are under-resourced. In private security, if you walked into the hotel, you saw private security checking to see if there was bombs on it. If you go into a hospital, if you go into a shopping center, if you go into other places, of compounds of residences, you may have private security protecting you. There's 5.5 million people in private security in India. That's 4 times greater than the police force. There's more people in private security than the police force in India. I'm not talking about paramilitary or military. I'm just talking about the police force. So what is happening in our country? In our country, what's happening is the rich and the middle class and the elite are able to finance their own security because we as a nation haven't protected our people. And we should not be blaming the police. They're under-resourced. They need more people. We should not be blaming the public prosecutors. How can they manage 300 cases in one go? The system is taxed. So let's look at the comparison model before you. Here, let me talk about the trends in the crime first. The trends that we've been seeing over the years and decades working is that there's a move from red light districts to residential areas. The crime is becoming more organized, covert, and sophisticated, and it's challenging to do evidence collection. It's moving to a technology-based crime where there's more work on mobile telephones. People are buying and selling women on WhatsApp. We supported the police to arrest criminals, and they have lists of girls' pictures on WhatsApp saying, we will buy it for 50,000 rupees. Will you be willing to supply? The technology is advanced. And through that technology, people are being exploited. And there's also other social media that's happening. And there's a merger of labor trafficking and sex trafficking. Because if you look at what happened in Jharkhand, it's people coming from Jharkhand, sold to placement agencies, and they're going for domestic work, sexual exploitation, as well as international trafficking. We can't say it's one silo versus another. It's human trafficking that's occurring. So let's look at the problem versus the proposed solution. The problem itself, as we described, it's organized, it's advancing, it's mobile, and it's exploited. And if you look at the solution we've been proposing, it's reactive. It's under-resourced, it's overworked. These are the different departments that's trying to do it. We as civil society are trying to support it. But we, as Dr. Nair said this morning, are trying to be islands of excellence. And we can no longer do that. We can no longer be islands of excellence working in our own domains. We need to work together, and that's why I'm excited for this conclave, that we can work together, support one another, and begin trading information of what's going on. Because otherwise, if the criminals are more organized than us, shame on us. Let me leave a story with you. We got a case, I think I have a few more minutes, hopefully. We have a case in February that came to us where a father said, my child is missing. Please help. Normally we don't take this case, we don't know what to do with missing girls. We know how to solve crimes at a destination location of trafficking. So, but because he said it just happened 15 days ago, please help, we said sure. So we contacted the local police. Initially they thought we were out to say what they did wrong, but we said let's try to support you. We contacted local people in the Krishnanagar district, in Nadia, in West Bengal, and we contacted partners who are coming from different faith communities, different NGOs, and all said, could we help this father? We asked Kolkata Police IT section for help, called them on the phone. We called Sharbari Man from West Bengal CID saying, could you advise us? None of them needed to do it, but they were all willing to. And through every step of the way, we found that the local police were able to do it. That they began tracing and trapping the accused and finding that it was a basket of crimes, and this young girl was sold for 50,000 rupees from her community, taken to Calcutta, then to Bihar. And so we are now talking about collaboration with local police in Nadia, state police in West Bengal, state and local police in Bihar, NGOs in all these states. Because they were willing to come to the table, nobody take credit. This is not an IJM case. I applaud the local police of Nadia for actually going, tracking the cell phones, and for 9 days straight, through like 3 nights straight, they were able to go, and finally they said, we can't find her. We tried, we can't find her. We're tracing the cell phones. We've arrested 3 or 4 people in the case, but we cannot find her. They just tried one more time, Tuesday morning, 3 weeks ago. And they found that the cell phone signal had stayed consistent for 5 hours, so they went to this red light district in Bihar, checked 4 or 5 different brothels. The 6th brothel, she was there, with her main trafficker. And she was rescued, he was trafficked, and the commitment of these police astounded me. They wanted to get her back home to such a degree. They didn't have lunch, they didn't have breakfast, they were driving through the night and didn't even have dinner to be able to get her back to her father safely. And I'm happy to report to you, she is back and she is safe. But it's because people are willing to work outside their islands of excellence and work together that we can begin resolving this terror that's happening in our villages and our cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Biju, for your very interesting dimensions of crime. In fact, even though I'm a police officer with 25 years of service, the business model actually I have also never looked into, so I'm sure this will really help. One more suggestion I want to give to both the organizers, that is Shakti Vaini as well as the partners from the consulate. I request all the panelists that they should, at the end of the day, create a small note on the doables and the measurables. What are the things, what are the suggestions which should come forward, and how do you measure the progress of those suggestions? For example, if somebody says, we want to make migration easier by doing X, Y, Z, then how do we do those X, Y, Z, and how do we measure the progress, so that when we have the next conclave, we can actually do a review of the previous one and come out with something more. Before I invite my new speaker, that is Mr. Haldar, I just want to read out a few lines from the famous Hindi poet, Harivansh Rai Bachchan, just to set the mood. Nanhi चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, madam, this is for you from the consulate. I'm going to convert it in English, translate. नन्ही चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, चढ़ती दीवार पर भी कई बार फिसलती है. When a small ant climbs a big wall, she slips hundreds of times. मन का विश्वास रगों में साहस भरता है, चढ़कर गिरना, गिरकर चढ़ना ना करता है. It is her faith, it is her trust, it is her confidence which moves her forward, and she doesn't give up. आखिर उसकी मेहनत बेकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वाले की हार नहीं होती. So, with these words, I invite Mr. Haldar, please come and start the session. I have about 8 to 10 minutes, so I hope you finish in that.